stupid. I got an appointment I got to be at downtown, but I want to get everything covered you guys want, so I'll just keep mine short. Listen, it was good to be home over the weekend, and it was a great game with a great crowd. I thought we responded better in the second half. I was not real pleased with the first half. Starting to get a little more critical and everything now because we have to get some consistency. I thought Malik has bounced back, and that's been a big difference. We talk about all the things, but he is a big key for us. It was an important Big Ten win. I think we got done with it, and that's the uniqueness of this schedule now. It's Thursday, Sunday sometimes, and so it's right away the next day is prep time. This one, with Martin Luther King Day and everything, we had a little more time, but so I had a meeting with some of the players, trying to get guys like Tyson. I think Tyson Walker is an MVP candidate. I really do. I think he can do it so many different ways. I think he's improved his shooting some. He's improved his passing a lot. I don't think since his injury he's playing as good defensively. And when I said it to him, he kind of agreed, and he's good. I need him to be great. And I think that way he'd be one that could, he's improved his passing and his dribbling. He could pass it, he could dribble it, he could score it, and he could defend it. And that, I think, is going to be critical. The other thing is AJ's got to clean up his turnovers. He was one of the best in the country. And he's just we got a little sloppy, and I can't figure out why. They're plays that he's not making bad decisions. He's just making some plays with the ball, not finishing layups and things. So those are the things we tried to shore up with us. On Minnesota, Ben Johnson, it's kind of weird. We haven't played him in 2 years. That never happens in this league, but because of what happened last year, we have not seen Minnesota, home or away. Ben is a guy that I've known since he played. I have tremendous respect for him. I talked to him about things, how we built our program, how they're building his. And I think he's done an unbelievable job. He's now got 7 players, I think, on his roster from Minnesota. He's starting to, kind of get a fence around his state like we did. He's got the deepest roster I think he's had in years. Dawson Garcia is definitely one of the better players. He stays healthy in our league. He's averaging 17. Last night he had 30. He can shoot it from 3. He can put it on the floor at 6'11". He can post up. He's kind of a 3-dimensional player. And their backcourt is dangerous. It's been a little up and down, but the Mitchell kid is a great 3-point shooter. Hawkins, when I watched them against Nebraska early in the year, the little point guard they got, he was electrifying. He was as quick, shot it from deep range, and I think he's number 1 in the nation in assists, number 2 in assists. So he's done a great job, and seeing Cam Christie there, he's a spitting image of Max. He looks just like Max. He should. He's his brother, but he's played very well, and his stats have been almost identical to Max's as a freshman, and that's pretty good. So I think this team is the best Minnesota team I've seen in years, and that's why they've won 3 games and got a road win. So when it's all said and done, with all statistical things and everybody's, the better we defend, the better we rebound, which we've done a better job in the last 2 games, the better we'll run and the better team will be. So, sounds pretty simple to me. Questions?
Tyson can be kind of a hard guy to get a read on sometimes, and wondering, do you think the idea of being the Big Ten Player of the Year, does that sort of thing matter to him? Do you have a sense of that?
It's funny you said that, because that's kind of exactly what I said to myself yesterday when I saw him, and I said, I had people calling me saying, he's one of the top 3 guys, he's this, he's that. I'm saying he should be, and I'm saying I wonder if it even matters to him, and that sounds stupid because of course it matters, but is it a goal? Is he driven to achieve goals? That's where it's hard to And I told him that. I said, if you had to improve in 2 areas, one of them's simple. I mean, get that defensive chip on your shoulder back. Because, I mean, he's been good defensively, but he was great at times. So that one's simple. The other one is express yourself a little bit more. You're one of the best players, not only on our team, but in the whole conference, and one of the better players in the country. And yet you play where nobody knows who you are. You don't say enough to other people. And, you know, as crazy as it sounds, that's what meant so much to me. Everybody thought I was excited about Steven's shot. You know, even I made a shot. I wasn't excited about the shot. I was excited that the first guy picking him off the floor was Tyson. For some reason, that just hit home to me. Like, man, this guy's got some things in him. You know, I'm watching Jaden on the bench, and I go, where did that come from? I mean, he was jumping up and down like a 2-year-old. You know, and that is what I think this team's missing a little bit, you know. Not, you know, AJ's a lot better, but the leadership and the emotion of things. And so if you're having trouble reading them, sometimes I do too. That doesn't make it a bad thing. It just means if we did do a better job of that, I think we could be better. And I know that matters to me. I want to make sure it matters to him, some of those goals to obtain.
Tom, I think Trey now is first in the country in assist to turnover ratio, and just wondering if you could speak to a guy who doesn't have a ton of experience, kind of the poise that he's been able to show.
You know, Doug Wojcik said that today. He said to me, he goes, Trey's been putting together games that are unbelievable. And so we went back and looked, and you know, he has 6 assists, no turnovers, 6 assists, no turnovers, 3 assists, no turnovers. And that is the one area that AJ was doing a great job of, and all of a sudden there's 6 assists, 4 turnovers, 4 assists, 4 turnovers, you know, 6 assists, 3 turnovers. And so if we can get AJ back on track, the job Trey's doing, not only passing the ball, but he's been defending it pretty good, and he's been shooting it much better. Yeah, I'm really proud of Trey. I mean, I think if you talk about a guy who's taken a major step, and I think he's got a lot more steps he can still take. That's a pretty impressive stat, though, when you're a guard, and a guard without a lot of experience to have the poise to do that, I think speaks volumes for him.
2 separate things. Back to Steven's shot, but kind of on what you said about the bigger picture. You've been, over 29 years, have you had seasons where maybe one moment emotionally galvanizes a team? Could that be one of them?
Boy, would I love to say yes to that, because as I said to you, I mean, even though it was my own kid, even though I knew the situation, my eyes went from the rim when it rolled around 3 times to my players. And that, you know, it has been something that I talked to them about. But I really, until both of you asked the question, I'm not sure you know, this is who you are. That was spontaneous. That was just because you were having fun. That's because you enjoyed it. That's the way it's supposed to be. And if it could be that way with everything, I think we could be a better team. So it'll be something we'll talk about. But I believe it or not, I agree with you. I think there are things each season that galvanize. I don't know if that will be one of them, but that was one that made me look at my team differently, you know. And when I got in the locker room, the very first thing I addressed was that. I just said, you know, as the coach hat and the father hat, I took off the coach hat, and the father hat would have let me talk about Steven. But I put back on the coach hat and said, I just want to thank all of you for what you've done for the 5 years, but what you've done today made me look at everything a little differently, including I thought people would leave warm and fuzzy because they could see their own kids, you know, and that really is what I harp on with a leader every day. Don't worry about making yourself better. Make the people around you better. And I don't think we do enough of that today. And that day, I think it expanded, and everybody, the fans, everybody made everybody around I mean, the place was hopping like I've never heard it in a long time. And is that galvanizing? I guess we shall soon see.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about the bigs, you mentioned Jackson. I mean, his foot looked fine dashing after that ball, but from a minute standpoint, I think it was like 18, 12, and 8 or somewhere in there with the 3 bigs. Is that maybe not necessarily each individually, but collectively? Is that kind of how you think the split would be?
So much of it depends on who we're playing. I mean, I know I hate to use that as an excuse, but there are certain teams that, are playing really small and it makes it a little harder. But I do envision all 3 playing. I do envision all 3 helping us, and I do envision that all 3 give us something different. Monty still gets those monster rebounds. Probably Coop is the best defensive player out of the bunch. And if Jackson's healthy and everything's good, he's the best offensive player of the bunch. So I think we can rotate him in there. I think we're going to play 2 together in some games when we play bigger teams. That could happen this week. But there's been a lot of teams lately that have gone smaller instead of bigger. But there's a couple teams coming up now in Michigan and Indiana that are Minnesota that are bigger, play bigger rather than smaller. So, I know it's probably frustrating still, but I'm seeing, I'm convincing Book that when he takes a drink of water, when he eats ice cream, whatever he does, I'm trying to convince him to do it with a snarl on his face, grit his teeth, grit your teeth when you're drinking water, and honest to God, I feel like he's starting to make some progress too. So we've got to do a better job of getting them the damn ball, meaning all of them. We have not done a good job of that, and I've had meetings with my offensive kind of assistants and really gone over that, but a lot of that falls on me too. And they got to do a better job making sure they take care of it. Doesn't have to score it, just get it in, get it out, do some things. And I think we need to expand our stuff a little bit. We're going to try to do that.
Sounds to me like, beyond the fact that it was your son, you were pleasantly surprised that your team showed that much passion. And that leads to my question: have you had to struggle as a coach over the years with players or teams that didn't have the Team Cleaves, Travis Walton gene in them, that they didn't approach the game that way? And have you learned to accept that that's okay, or is that still a struggle?
Nope, I'll never accept it. I'll never listen to the people that tell me times have changed. They have. I've changed. Hell, I barely yell an official anymore. I've changed. I really have, to a certain extent. Some good, some, but it's like changing. You still have to defend, rebound, and run. You still have to block and tackle. You got all these different things that go on in all sports. And passion and emotion, what do they say? It's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmys and Joes. That is a very, very, very true statement. Half our job isn't Xing and O'ing it. It's getting people to play at a level and get them to play with the passion and enthusiasm. And like I said, if you go back and watch it, Jaden's good, but I just never saw that side of Jaden. I think Jaden Akins was so happy. And I watched that and I ran it back and I said, who is that, And maybe it's galvanizing, maybe just realizing, but I don't think you can be great if you don't have it. I don't think you can be great if you don't have it. I think we've got somebody to learn from right down the road on Sunday, and that was watching the Lions,
My next question.
Dan has done something there. He's getting ripped for taking chances. He's getting ripped for how tough he is. He gets ripped for this and that. And I just smile, man. The only thing that we haven't done yet, because every year we got the Lions staff up here for a game, and one of my former managers is getting high up there, and it's something that I really want to do, but I really want to do more is sit down with Dan and just sit down and listen to him and kind of learn some things, It's, Nick adjusted. Nick didn't change. You know, I mean, I'm laughing at the Bill Belichick things, you know. Of course I'm a Bill Belichick fan. I mean, why wouldn't you be? He's Super Bowl after Super Bowl. I'm laughing how he's lost it, and he's this and he's that. And right now, every talking head wants him to fire every coach in the NFL to pick up Bill Belichick. You know, it doesn't matter if you got a good coach or a bad coach. This is the best coach. You know, it's funny how the world works, but I think you all need that. You know, I think we need that passion, we need that enthusiasm, and sometimes it gets taken away, and that's my fault more than theirs.
Yes, you get that moment with Dan, will you share with him that you're a Packer fan?
Yeah, of course. I mean, how could you have a better day than Sunday? We win, the Packers win, the Lions win. I mean, you wouldn't want it any other way, would you? You wouldn't want me to forget where I came from. I mean, that's what you're asking me to do, but what I am is, when in Rome, do like the Romans. You know, I'm still a Packer fan. I would really have problems if the Packers played the Lions, because I got to know Matt LaFleur. I texted him the other day, and great guy. You know, his dad was at Central, and he's from Mount Pleasant and everything. But boy, you know what Dan is? He's infectious to me. I get excited listening to I watch his press conferences. They excite me, especially the one when he was really mad about the play call and that, the 2-point conversion. You know, like I think I replayed it, ran it again and again and again. It was awesome. So, yeah, I'll tell him I'm a Packer fan, but I'm a Lions fan all the time. The only problem I'm going to have is if they both win, then I got to take my roots and my new home, and I got to put them together. I could look at it like I don't have to pull for either one. I know that my team's going to win, you know. But I tell you why I'm a bigger Lion. I told Mariucci this when he took the job there 20 years ago. I said, I've watched Detroit Tigers, you know, 68, and then the other times they were so good. I've watched the Pistons in the 90s be so good, went down to those games, and the Red Wings, they're good all the time, you know, a little slump now, but I mean, they had so many years. And I just got a text from Dominic Raiola, remember him? And I remember going to a hockey game in Pittsburgh with him and following the Red Wings. So I have an appreciation, but I told Mariucci it's still a football town. And if football is ever good, the roof will come off this place. And from what I hear, I wasn't there, but it was close the other day. And so it helps our whole state. God bless them.
Got time for one more?
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Just going back to like talking about that, trying to bring passion out of some guys. Like some players, you just see them and they have that kind of killer instinct and they have that dogged mentality. Can you change a player, or like when you're going through the recruiting process, are you looking for guys that naturally have that instinct?
Really good question, because the guys that have that instinct in this day where everybody's so pampered and entitled, it's harder to get that, you know, like, but I was a time, I remember recruiting Travis Walton, and we had 2 kids from this similar area. One was a really, really good player, ended up going to Marquette, and some problems happened, but one was Travis, who wasn't as good a player, but I said, this team needs a tough guy, a leader, a this, a that, and won a lot of games with him, you know. It's getting harder to do. It's getting harder to find, I think, is the biggest problem, because I think that dog mentality right now, I mean, guys are going to have NIL deals in high school, you know. I mean, it's harder to find. Can you change them? It's harder to change, but not impossible to change. It's only harder to change when you give up on it. And that's where, you know, some of these press conferences where I question myself, I think that, you know, you have to be more careful on how you do things. And I always say, are we hurting the players or are we hurting ourselves? You know, players need to be pushed. And it is harder to find it, but it's out there. And that's where you hope the culture, the other players take that on. And I think COVID has set a lot of people back, because a lot of people, like I look at AJ when he was a freshman, he didn't go through the normal things that you'd be, where you're living, sleeping here, and you're having meetings with your assistants and with the coaches, and it was wear a mask and stay away from everybody. So, I think it's an excuse, but I think it's a valid discussion item that we all have to deal with. So I'm gonna keep hunting for those, but like AJ's got some dog in him. He just maybe didn't get through him enough early because we weren't around him as much as we are others. Tyson, I love Tyson. I mean, he's just done so many good things for us, and I'm just trying to help a guy go from good to great, or great to elite. And I think Ty has more to give in his leadership, and he has more to give in his defense than even he did, and he's one of my best defenders. So it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just something that we got to do a little better job of, and that comes from the coaching staff as well as the players. So I'm sorry, I got a thing I got to speak at on a serious matter for schools here downtown, so I'm running down there. Is there any other quick one you got? Because I don't mean it. I appreciate it. Hopefully, Minnesota is a lot better team than the Minnesota that most of you guys have seen 2 years ago. Like I said, they've won 3 games. They got a road win at Michigan. This is a solid, good basketball team. They have experience now. They have size. They have depth. And they got a point guard who's electric. And so last night he struggled. They struggled. I don't care where you are. If the head dies, the body usually follows. So we got to make sure our head is right, and we'll go from there. Thanks.